Good morning, and welcome back to Bible Break, our 15 minutes each week to see what the Bible has to say to us today. And so without further ado, we are still in Mark's Gospel, following through with the events of Easter and their significance, what it means for us as things stand. And we'd got to verse 53, I think. Yeah, Mark 14, verse 53, or 50, 53. And we'll read down to the end of the chapter, which is verse 72. Mark 14, 53 to 72. And as usual, I'm reading from my NIV. Okay, so let's go. So the arrest has taken place in the Garden of Gethsemane. Verse 53, they took Jesus to the high priest and all the other chief priests, elders, and teachers of the law came together. Peter followed him at a distance, but at least he followed him, right into the courtyard of the high priest. There he sat with the guards and warmed himself at the fire, because I suppose symbolically as well, it's got pretty cold. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, that's perjury. But their statements did not agree. So that's a crime. Then some stood up and gave this false testimony against him. We heard him say, I will destroy this man-made temple, and in 3 days will build another, not made by man. Yet even then their testimony did not agree, because they did not really get the gist at all of what he was saying there, which was prophecy, that, destroy this temple, and I will build another in 3 days. He was talking about his own resurrection, of course. And he was talking about the temple of his own body and the body that would represent him thereafter here on earth, i.e. the church. Those who have put their faith in him and who are now indwelt by his spirit. But there you are, they can't get their narrative and their story in order. So the high priest changes tack. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? Come on, stand up for yourself. This is what we always believe, isn't it? You've got to stick up for yourself. Come on. But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer, because it's quite obvious that this was predetermined on their part, let alone the Lord's, and they weren't interested in his answer other than to look for any further incriminating evidence, as they saw it. So again, the high priest asked him, Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? So he's asking him straightforwardly there. And I am, said Jesus, answering him equally straightforwardly. And you will see the Son of Man, which is his favourite name. I have said this, I don't know how many times. That's his favourite name for himself. He doesn't go around, he's never gone around saying, I am the Son of God. He's answered the high priest clearly, yep, you said it, that's right, I am the Son of God. But when he goes on, he says, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. But this is it, you see, Jesus is Son of God and Son of Man, because there is no necessary contradiction between being fully divine and being fully human. And indeed, those two things are perfectly joined and married and united in him. It's too much for the high priest, though, who tore his clothes. Why do we need any more witnesses, he asked. You've heard the blasphemy. That's what he was getting. That's what he was aiming for. That's what he's got to. You've heard the blasphemy. What do you think? They all condemned him as worthy of death, so they're heading straight towards the desired result. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists and said, prophesy who hit you. Because they blindfolded him, see. The guards took him and beat him. So the idea here is not just to condemn him, but to get rid of him, having first humiliated him and having first attempted to show just how ridiculous his any claim on his part, or purported claim on his part, was or is to be the Son of God, when they could do this to him. That is the way of the bully, isn't it? How can you claim to be anything whatsoever yourself if we can just do this to you and make you look as downtrodden and as ridiculous as this? This is the tyrant's way. This is the bully's way. Well, while Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. "You also were with that Nazarene, Jesus," she said. But he denied it. "I don't know or understand what you're talking about," he said, and went out into the entrance to try to get away from her. When the servant girl saw him there, so he hasn't got away from her, she said again to those standing around, "This fellow's one of them." Again he denied it. After a little while, those standing near said to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." No doubt they could tell by his accent and the fact that he'd been with Jesus. He's somebody who'd come down from the north. He began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man you're talking about." Immediately the cock crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him. "Before the cock crows twice, you will disown me thrice, 3 times. And he broke down and wept. So, how's that New Year's resolution going? I hope it's going well. I hope you're keeping up. I made a frivolous resolution myself to eat more meat. This man made a serious resolution that he was going to follow Jesus to the end, even if it was the bitter end. But at the first hurdle here, it's a very big hurdle, mind, he falls. As Jesus said he would. I say it's a big hurdle because what we've just read in the second half of our reading here isn't about some sort of casual chat around a campfire. But Peter is within yards of Jesus, who is being tried by his enemies, who it is clear desire his downfall. And that means getting rid of him. So he is in a very dangerous situation. But that's just it. He senses, he understands, he senses, he knows the danger. And as soon as the heat is on, as this servant girl sort of recognizes him and sees him as being part of Jesus's gang, so she starts the business of exposing him. Well, that puts Peter in a very difficult and dangerous situation. To his credit, He is the one who has followed Jesus all the way here, but he can't follow him all the way. He's going to learn the most, as many of us who have made resolutions, serious resolutions may have learned. He's going to learn a very, very hard and difficult lesson about himself. That in and of himself, his fear gets the better of him. He is not the faithful and courageous and resolute follower and disciple of the Lord Jesus that he saw himself as being. So not only does he understand as he breaks down and weeps that his love for Jesus, who he does love, but he realizes that his love for Jesus isn't anywhere near as strong and as great and as constant as he thought it was, or as he knew that it should be. And so by the same token, he realizes that he is nowhere near the man that he thought he was, and nowhere near the courageous, resolute individual, as I've been saying, that he wants to be. Don't we all? If we are people of goodwill. Remember the word of the Lord Jesus in our last reading, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And Peter, before the cock crows 3 times, you will have denied me 3 times, and that is precisely what happens. I saw a film once of Jesus' life, of the gospel story, and for dramatic representation, they had Peter in the courtyard, and the door between the high priests in the sanctuaries, or the courthouse, where the high priest resided, as it were, in hell session, hell judgment. The door between that and the courtyard was open. And Jesus wasn't looking at Peter, he was there with his accusers. But when the cock crowed the second time, and indicating that Peter had denied him 3 times, the Lord turns his head, looks at Peter directly, and Peter looks at him. And that is the trigger there for his breakdown and his breaking down. Well, like I say, they probably did that in this dramatic representation of the gospel story in this film for dramatic effect, but the drama was nonetheless real, probably all the more real, obviously, in reality. That like an arrow to his heart, he doesn't necessarily see the Lord Jesus looking at him, but he hears the Lord Jesus saying to him again, before the cock has crowed 3 times, you will have denied me 3 times. For all the, promises that you are making to me, and for all the good intentions which I know you have, that's what's going to happen, Peter. And you're going to have to learn a very sad and bitter truth about yourself. Left to yourself. But why do I say that? Left to yourself. Because in saying what he said to Peter, and through the course of events that is unfolding and unraveling here, Jesus has already started the work of transformation that he is going to bring about, and that he is already bringing about in Peter himself. That it is through this cruel self-knowledge, a phase, a stage through which we must all pass if we are to come to Christ and follow him in the way that we would like to. As I say, Peter is learning that, as the Lord Jesus says elsewhere, without me you can do nothing. You're not what you think you are or who you think you are, and without me you can't do anything for me. Peter's learning that in the most direct and cruel fashion here, actually, most bitter fashion, but he's learning it. And as I say, the wonderful thing is that even in this total breakdown here, this scene of utter desolation, as far as Peter is concerned, this is actually the first step, major step at that, but it is the first step to his total transformation, which I won't say much more about now because time is marching on, but which we will see happening over the course of the next, perhaps we won't see it so much in Mark's Gospel, to be honest, but we will see it over the course of the next few weeks, and I will return to it anyway at some point. Okay then, so there we are. We leave it there for now, though. We've gone a bit over our 15 minutes again, so I'll see you next week.